Okay. Hey guys, I'm here with Sam Seymour. Just drove up all the way from Macon, so this conversation better be awesome on my part, though. I'm gonna deliver. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, as you said, I'm Sam. I work for a nonprofit land trust. So we conserve natural land and we build public parks on them. Just kind of give it back. There's just so much land that could easily be developed, but not enough people care enough to do the work we're doing, I guess.
And your job is to secure that.
Yeah. So there's two of us in the organization. So I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats, but my title is project manager. So,
Okay.
so programs and projects and every other little thing between.
Yeah, I bet. Toilets and carpets and I have no idea.
Porta potties.
And so how did you hear about this?
So I actually heard it from my boss, who he knew because my previous experience working, I was at Nucci Space in Athens, which is a nonprofit like musical resource center for people who have any kind of mental illnesses or just need someone to talk to. It was a great space, and it really helped me when I needed it. So he knew that, and he pointed me in this direction, and I'm glad I found this place. It's really cool.
So you went to Nucci Space and participated in their resources and their programs.
Yeah.
Nucci, I've never been. Mm-hmm. I've always heard about it. I was a big Drive-By Truckers fan, and
they love the place.
Yeah, and they when I was going through a real rough patch, I was looking for something like that in Atlanta, and I couldn't find anything. And so I was like, well, why don't I just do something? Which is silly to take on a huge project. But we've been doing baby steps to get to that point where we offer, programs and services and cheap or free mental health care. That's coming.
That's coming. Awesome. Have you been talking with Nucci's at all?
We've emailed back and forth over the last couple of years, and I just need to get a half day or a day and drive out to Athens. And I want to meet Seth Hendershot as well.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
Talk to him about what he does at that coffee shop / music venue. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, this video series is to just talk about stigma and how this invisible force is super powerful in the fight against not getting help. So when I say stigma, what does that mean to you?
Well, everyone I think who's gone through depression or some sort of mental illness experiences stigma to some extent, unless you're very privileged in whatever way. But when I first, I would say, had encountered stigma was must have been a few years when depression creeped in slowly, and I'm like, oh well, whatever, it's just a slump, it's just a funk, I'll get over it. And then when it finally occurred to me that it was an issue, it was something I was ashamed of. It's not exactly something I could help, but I didn't want to seek help, and it actually took a lot of pushing from people who cared about me to actually find it. That's how I stumbled into Nucci's and ended up working there and helping other people hopefully find their little space they need, little push.
Yeah. So how many times did people try to get you to, or even just say, hey man, maybe you should go talk to somebody?
I don't know how many times, but my girlfriend at the time was who struggled with depression and went through the whole 9 yards of me, was pushing me into it. And I was like, no, I don't need to get on any prescription meds. I'll be okay. I don't need to see a counselor. I'll be okay. I don't need to see a therapist. But it got to a point where I was actually having suicidal thoughts and feelings. And I told her, and she went and told my family. And they're like, you got to seek help. You can't this isn't just about you anymore. It's kind of about everybody. So that's kind of how I head on into stigma. But
yeah, no, it's how do you tell people about that? I mean, it's really cool that you did, because like you keep that inside, and all of a sudden those thoughts become real, and you just spiral into that. Oh, well, this is the only option I have.
Yeah.
I was writing songs about. The last song I wrote was about. Before I went and got help, I was just gonna drift my car into oncoming traffic. And I like wrote this line, and it's like it was like a whole like third verse of the song, and I was like, well, there it is. I was like, I love my life. I love my children. I love my wife, so I was like, okay, yeah, kind of swallow that pill of like, oh, here we go. What's gonna happen? Yeah.
There's a little finality to writing it down. Like, it's not just like a thought. You actually had to articulate it.
Yeah, wrote it down, recorded it.
Yeah. It's a lot to it.
I heard that moment when you were saying, nah, I don't need help. That's that fear of what people are gonna think. Is that what held you back?
I think so. And I had to admit that it was not just like a minor thing. It was something I had to. It's so much easier to just kind of ignore than to actually confront it and deal with, like, why do I feel this way?
I at some point realized that there was nothing I could do, so I was just gonna ride it out. So like it would come in waves, and sometimes it would be long bouts, sometimes it would be short. But I was like, something my mom would say was like, "This too shall pass."
Yeah.
And Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, said it, and some other people. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like sun's gonna rise, sun's gonna set. Just get through it, and that's not the best way to deal with it.
I mean, this too shall pass is great advice in some circumstances.
Yeah.
When you're struggling through mental illness, not really. Especially if you're not seeking help at all.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to pass on its own.
Exactly. Yeah. This too shall pass if you do all the things you need to do to make it pass. It's not going to pass on its own.
Yeah. Goodness. Stigma. So you talked to people. Did you give medication a try or not? Or
I did, and I'm still on it. I had to go through a few different medications to find one that works. As most people, I feel like have to do.
I got lucky.
Did you?
Yeah.
Just first try?
Well, the year after my divorce, which actually my ex-wife is in the room right now. We just had a graduation party for our daughter. That first year of that, somebody said, "Hey man, you're kind of depressed. Why don't you go talk to somebody?" And I went, and he had me on Lexapro for a year.
That's what I was on.
But I was drinking a lot. So I was like, well, I never really gave it a chance to work, and I didn't really work the program, I guess.
Yeah.
And so after a year of that, I quit drinking so much, and I don't know what happened. So maybe it was a life shift, and where I was like, well, I'm not going to take that anymore. I'm fine now.
That's great to hear.
I'm fixed. But then it creeped up later on in life, and about 2.5 years ago, it just like I just wasn't happy. It was just like it was more than sadness and there was no reason, and I couldn't explain it. And my wife doesn't suffer from the depression, so she's just like, what is this? What is going on? And so as I learned more about it, I was able to educate. But if you don't know what it's like to go through like an anxiety attack or like a super depressed day where you just can't talk to anybody, it's hard to have empathy.
I completely understand. I've had so many people in my life, not always close to me, but just on peripheral, who just never even understood how depression or any kind of mental illness works. Like, they kind of just think, you just shake it off, like get your together, or just take some meds and everything's fixed. And it's never that simple.
I wish.
Yeah, right? You'd have a lot less issues if it was just take a pill and everything's fixed. But
I mean, that transition of finding medication though is rough. I've experienced that with other people in my life, and yeah, if you're not aware, if you're not able to watch your thoughts, like outside of yourself, then you're not going to realize that you're headed down like a depressive thought chain, you know, and then next thing you know, you're like mouthing off at a loved one, or shutting people out, and all because of this like series of thoughts that just became more and more real.
Yeah, it becomes like ingrained. Like it starts like slowly, but then you start getting on one train of thought, and you're immediately at the end point.
Yeah, and I suffer from black or white thinking. For some reason, that's like what my brain does, and it's like right or wrong. It's either this or that, and why limit myself? There's a million options,
A lot of gray there.
A lot of gray, yeah, and a lot of color too. And I never thought I was like, my self-esteem was super low. I used humor a lot to like cover up all of that, and I'm a little sick. What was I saying? Using humor.
You knew a lot of people struggling to find the right medication? Is that what you looked up?
Trains of thought. Oh yeah, black or white. And I thought I wasn't worth it, or I wasn't good enough to have the things I want in my life, and so I saw this little glimpse, and I just dove headfirst into it, and I saw this impossible thing that I wanted, and I made it happen. And then I saw another impossible thing, and I made it happen. Something my daughter and I have been kind of doing side by side, but with different obstacles for the last 2 years. It's been it's been a ride. But excuse me. But yeah, I don't know, like your cognitive distortions, and that's what they are. They blur the world, or like put a filter on reality. I always thought of depression as like a wet, heavy blanket.
Yeah. It literally depresses you.
Literally, yeah. Everything, like your mood, anything, any kind of spark of joy, like.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's just like a sadness. It's just kind of like a nothing, almost. Just like, nothing really makes me super happy. I'm kind of just permanently at the bottom. I don't know. That was my experience with it.
And it's different for a lot of people. And that's something that I think we all could be reminded of, is that we all experience the world differently, and that not everyone sees it the way I see it. And so sitting back, taking a beat, and going, okay, what are their intentions? Are they trying to physically harm themselves or me? All right, then I don't need to really get upset at this moment, and or take action, so I can just like sit, wait, think about it, process it, in a perfect world. How do you stay balanced now, or try to achieve a balance in your brain?
It's a few things, not all of them the healthiest. Like I would say one of the more common but least helpful, or healthy I should say, would be just filling my time with as much things, so I don't have time to think about like the things that are making me sad or depressed or just lonely kind of thing. Like completely fill up my schedule so I have no free time, so I can't think, which I don't know where I got that from. Maybe it's a family thing.
Super productive though.
Yeah, no, but then I don't feel like, then I'm constantly like, am I being productive at this very moment? And then like, since I'm always moving, I'm not appreciating the things I've done. Kind of like, who cares? I'm worthless, even though I did a million things. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about everything I haven't done yet. So there's that. I'd say the healthy and more helpful way I do now is kind of how I got out of it, which was a practicing mindfulness and like meditation every day when I wake up.
On the reg? Were you about
I was going to say on the reg, yeah.
Yeah.
Or on the daily or something.
When? What time of day?
Usually after I have breakfast before I leave for work. kind of thing, just get my mind straight. And like you said, you don't, you're not mindful, or you're not thinking about your thoughts. You at a certain point, you just kind of let them take over, and you don't realize you get on those tracks you're talking about. And I think mindfulness really helped me realize, like, okay, why are you thinking that? What would you say these things about someone else you cared about? You're saying this to yourself. So I'd say mindfulness, meditation, yoga, just all those great things.
Yeah.
It's helped a lot. And
well, your brain is part of your body, you know, and I don't practice this, but I preach it. You know, like eating, drinking healthy, balancing it with exercise and stillness and silence is something that I crave. I need. Yeah, birds are okay in the silence, but you know, I just need, which I haven't had in the last couple of days because I've been going. Like I've just been getting hit left and right the last couple of days, and in the past, I wouldn't have made it till today. Like I would have just canceled stuff, but a lot of the hits were my mistakes and my mishaps, and I got this new thing where I'm okay with it. I still don't have it down yet, but you know, it's like I'm not a mistake. You know, that's a shameful way of thinking. Yeah. You know, and I carried a lot of shame around with me, still do probably, but man. Yeah, so yeah, I'm exhausted. I haven't had that time. I love these conversations. But in the past, I would have just quit. And I know that I need it, so I'm going to find time for it. Mm-hmm. Maybe after this, maybe later, I don't know. But
as important as it is, you can't blame yourself for not having the time to do it. I mean, you can try to make time, but sometimes you don't.
Well, that's the thing, blame.
Yeah. And then that's only making it worse.
Yeah, and that's the kind of a shameful thing, you know, or like it's blaming, like a lot of blame shifters. And it takes away from takes the opportunity away to learn something. And so, like, when I started this coffee shop, I was like, I'm going to fail forward. I'm just going to try it, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to try it again. And I'm going to not do that thing that didn't work. And it's been exhausting because I've been like shedding these paradigms that I lived my whole life that I thought was reality, and I thought that's who I was or what I was capable of. Mm-hmm. And like really focusing on my thoughts and like not letting them control me has allowed me to accomplish things that I never would have dreamed possible. And so now every time something looks impossible, I just take a breath and I know there's a way. All I have to do is not give up. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, like
the stakes are rarely as high as we think they are.
Yeah. Like
if something doesn't go right, well, there's tomorrow we can figure it out.
Something I had an escape plan, but not like an end at all plan. As I was growing up, that I would just take off with a backpack and just live in the woods and not necessarily what was that guy Eric somebody into the wild.
Sounds right. Don't remember the name.
Yeah, he's actually a grad from Emory, I think, I don't think he graduated. I'm getting sidetracked. Which is not healthy either, but it wasn't suicide. And then I'd never put the pieces together that I had or suffered from like an imbalance in my brain. And I've seen times in my life where I'm living and eating well and exercising and laughing and creating, and I'm not as depressed because I'm like, I've got momentum with things, and then something will just flip, and that's not fun anymore, and what it used to.
Yeah. And you never really, at least for me, I never really appreciate when the moments are good because you're not thinking about the depression per se, but when you're in it, of course, that's the only thing you can think of, unless you're, like you said, just ignoring the thoughts essentially and just pushing anyway.
I've been really appreciating the fact that I'm not depressed lately. It's been weird. to like have a sense of pride, because you carry around so much shame, you're not allowed to. That's egotistical to be prideful.
Can't be cocky. Be happy.
Yeah. Look at me, balanced. But oh gosh, I'm using humor too much. Look at see that judgment I just did there. I'm tired. Well, it sounds like you're in a good place with it, and you're aware and know what to do, and you have just a sense of what it feels like to be depressed and then or to be content. And it is our choice ultimately. It's not our choice that our brains are as such, but we can choose how we deal with it. And I've had a lot of crappy things happen to me in the last 2 days, and I've chose to learn from it and to like use it, and I feel great about it. I don't like being broken into. I don't like having things stolen from me.
Few people do, so
and
you're not alone there.
I haven't felt anger towards this individual at all, and he did it 2 days in a row, and I didn't know who it was at first, and then now I have a picture, and I've seen how he behaves, and it's obviously a mentally ill person who is homeless and who is just doing his thing, going to get his ice cream. He walked out of the front door with like 4 ice cream sandwiches.
He took that and $100.
That was the day before.
Okay.
The day before, he threw a brick through the window to get into the register.
So the second time he just took ice cream?
Yeah, he couldn't get in the register.
Oh.
He like threw it on the floor a couple times. But anyway, yeah. Because I want to have compassion, and that's what this place is a place for people to be themselves. Now, you can't be here if you're hurting yourself or others, If you're hurting yourself, then, we'll call somebody to get you to a hospital. If you're hurting others, we'll call the police, because, that's not acceptable. But any type of weirdness, or even lies, even liars who just come in and like tell these tales or like spin these things, or even con men sometimes who are like trying to, I don't know, get something out of somebody. It's not violent, and as long as we're aware that, don't give away all your money to strangers. My train of thoughts are just going do 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 do.
You're fine. It's a hot day. It's been a long few days for you, so no judgment.
Well, tell me about the music in Macon. What's that like down there?
Funny story. I'm not actually from Macon. I was just down there today.
Oh, you're just down there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I should have specified. Yeah, I just started summer classes down at Middle Georgia. So.
Oh, you're in Millage. Is that Milledgeville?
Where's Middle That's Georgia? Macon.
That's Macon.
Milledgeville is Georgia College State University.
That's right.
It's got all the different terms for higher education in there.
They had a, they called it the loony bin.
Oh yeah, the huge
insane asylum.
Yeah. It has a term, but it's like the place in Milledgeville that isn't the college.
Is it still open?
It's not open anymore. I believe that
some of those practices are illegal now.
Yeah, quite a bit, to my knowledge. I'd love for it to turn into a museum or something. Or why hasn't there been like a movie shot there? With Georgia blowing up, there's like a giant opportunity for a really cool set.
A Georgia Shining.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that's where my head went first, but it's just sitting there.
Oh,
very interesting building. Has some interesting history.
Yeah, I've just driven by it, and I was in middle school. I have a vision of it for some reason. But all right, well, man, yeah, I love these conversations. I could keep talking about it, but then they get long and boring. What would you say to somebody who was stumbling upon these videos?
I guess it depends on where your head's at. But if you're watching the video, then obviously you understand that there's something wrong, or that you're seeking help of some sort. Just I don't care if it's cliche. Just keep going through it. Make sure you're doing the right things. You know, making sure you're seeing a psychiatrist if you need to, a psychologist certainly. Don't alienate yourself. Keep your family and friends in earshot, even if you think they don't want to hear you and they don't want to hear about your feelings, whatever. Just, you know, don't push them out, because they are the things that are gonna. When you don't want to do the things like take your medication or, you know, see a professional, they're gonna be the ones there for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. I had one more question, but what song are you gonna play for us?
This is a song called Anchor. I wrote it, not actually very much related to when I first got help, because at the time my girlfriend was the only thing keeping me from pretty much ending it, and she's the one who pushed me into getting help. So it's kind of like a little love song, a little bit of like my brain's broken. So
Cool.
just start whenever.
Yeah.
By all the lives I could be living, and despite all the lyrics that I write, you make the world stop and my legs collapse and rest. You're the only one who anchor me down. I need to know that you're, I'll be better next year. I could be living, and despite all the lyrics that I write, you make the world stop and my legs collapse and collapse. You're the only one who anchor me down. Yeah, I need to know that you're there. I'll be there next year. Fly me there, somewhere feels like home. Just leave me there, just leave me there. If that doesn't help, try shutting me off. You make the world stop and my legs collapse and collapse. You're the only one who anchor me down. Yeah, I need to know that you're there. I'll be better when the world stops dead in its tracks and collapse. You're the only one who anchor me down. I need to know that you're
was epic.
Thank you.